I can imagine how heavy a day like this is for you, with being bombarded. So, yeah, we are an hour away from a short break, I think. Right? Yeah. Okay. And I have a lot of things to show you in this next hour, so I hope to keep you awake. Otherwise, please come on, jump in with questions. So in this hour, I'm going to introduce you to implementation services and tools. When I started working with SNOMED, not for SNOMED, but with SNOMED when I was doing research, we had, that was around the time when IHTSGO was established, and there was a SNOMED user guide. It was not very user-friendly, I can tell you. It was a user guide, and there was a technical implementation guide, and that was it. You could get the release file, and then you could read it and make it happen. Fortunately, you're not in that position today, because the SNOMED International is offering a range of services to support implementers. So that's what I'm going to introduce to you now, so that when you walk out of this room today and in a week or two or a month or a year, come to think about now is the time that I need to do something with SNOMED, you will remember this, and that is that SNOMED International are there to help you with your implementation. And the National Release Center will be there to help you with your implementation. So that is probably one of the important messages of this presentation I'm doing now, is that you're not alone when doing this. If you have questions, if you have concerns, you're not the only one, because you're not the only one doing this. So you might as well learn from what others have of experiences as well. So I'm going to give a general introduction to our services. And Mael has promised to distribute these slides, and that's a good thing, because in these slides I'm putting up many different links to places you can go and look and see and so forth. So then you have that as a reference. I'm going to show you the browser. We have been speaking a lot about the browser today, but I'm going to give you like a walkthrough of the basic features of the browser, so that instead of watching television on a Friday evening, you can sit and play around with the SNOMED browser. I'm also going to show you Snap to SNOMED. It was something we also talked about over lunch here, because someone was asking, what do we do to get started, that migration process? We have some local codes that we are using now. We want to start using SNOMED. How do we start? Is there a way that we can slowly get started? And Snap to SNOMED is a tool that can help you in that process. It also relates to what Ian was talking about with mapping. So I'm going to show you that. And then I'm going to give you some links, or show you our education resources. And maybe we'll have time to talk more about terminology servers. Otherwise, we'll take that next time we come and visit. This is not to put up a picture of me. It's to show you guys the implementation support team. So just a few years ago, we established, or SNOMED International, it was decided to establish a team of people that can support actual implementers. Not only national release centers, but also in hospitals or vendors or other organizations implementing SNOMED CT, having some specific goals that they want to achieve, and needing someone to discuss what are the best approaches and the options. And so we are a team of 3. Alejandro Lopez Osorio with a medical background, and he's also very technical. So he can also answer very technical questions. Then we have me, who's more into training, terminology binding, doing analytics. And then we have Kai Cooley, who's a technical implementation specialist, and he's the one who's developing many of these tools that you will be using and seeing. So that's us, and we help Ian. So when he's traveling to France, he would call me and say, can you join me? And of course. And so you may, at other events, meet some of my colleagues as well. And we have an email, implementation@snomed.org, and that's the email you will write to if you have a specific questions related to your implementation, and then we can help you. Hopefully, or at least we can say, yeah, that's challenging, and then we can have a discussion about it. Some of the common implementation activities when you implement SNOMED CT is to first define a roadmap. Like any other implementation project, having a plan, and have it, knowing where you're heading and the path forward is like essential. So that's a very common thing that you have in an implementation project. Then when you implement SNOMED CT, it's also often a matter of developing some terminology artifacts. So that could be the subsets that Ian was just mentioning, where you want to develop like a subset and you want to use that as a value set in a report or a user interface. It could also be that you're developing a map or developing a translation. So these customizations, they are often involved in any implementation project. It could also be to specify those queries that we were talking about this morning. Then it's a matter of deploying terminology services. So you know now that SNOMED comes as these release files that can be imported into a terminology server. But what are the services that you need in your implementation that needs to be deployed so that the solutions do all the things that we have talked about it can do, but making it possible. And then it's about deploying those services and in your clinical systems, so embedding the functionality in your system, and also training and stakeholder engagement. So these 5 things are typical parts of an implementation journey with SNOMED. Not necessarily just in this straight line. Training and stakeholder engagement seem to go into all of these different parts of the process. So I'm going to talk a bit about how we can support each of these steps. We have built, the link you see here is for an implementation roadmap generator. It's a lightweight tool. You can just click on the link when you get it, and then you are in. I'll just pull up an example here. A roadmap for SNOMED land, a very special land. And you can see there's the background, there's a vision statement, talk something about the current e-health landscape, the goals of the implementation, the focus of the implementation, the different steps, and I even believe there's also like a roadmap planning. So this tool here allows you to specify all of these, the background, all of these headings. It provides you with some template text, so you don't have to sit and write everything. So it's not exactly as ChatGPT, but almost. It allows you to customize as you would want, so to make it fit into your purpose, and it allows you to add the milestones and the objectives that you want. So you just do that under edit, the fields. Where is it? I'll just show you. Edit dates. So here, when you can go in and edit everything. So there are input fields with all the text, and there are like templates or placeholders for the things that you have to customize. So I encourage you to go in here if you are starting a project, and here are all the different headings, and you can customize the text and add text as you want. So that's for the roadmap. When we meet with people starting up a project, this is typically what we will discuss, each of the steps here, to make sure that we have some common ground of where you're going with your implementation. Then we have a range of tooling that can help you in the process and with the tasks that you're doing. For developing value sets, so saying I want a set with these concepts, we have a RefSet tool, and there's a new tool under development that will be available very, very soon. But for now, you have to do with the old one, and you can manually assign codes in this tool, and you can also define it with the query here. And go. They can still hear me, I think. Right, yeah. Okay. So in this tool, you can do both the subsets where you define it with a query, so all the clinical findings with some morphology or the type of query you want, and then it will produce the list of codes for you. You can adapt it even further by manually excluding and including, and then you can export it as a symbol like Excel or spreadsheet file, but you can also export it as an RF2 file but without all the real concept identifiers or UUIDs that you need in an actual release. Then we have the mapping tool that I'm going to show you later, Snap to SNOMED. So if you have some local codes that you're using and you want to transform them to SNOMED CT, so that's on this link, and I'll show it to you later. As we also have a translation tool, so a tool that allows you to do the concept-based translation. So if I have a set of concepts and translating each of them into a certain language, they have some intelligence built into it, so where it comes with some proposals based on like Google Translate or DeepL engines. So they are some of the tools. And as I said, I'll show you the Snap to SNOMED and browser in a moment. Then with respect to the deployment of terminology services, if you are a vendor or a hospital and you have your own terminology server that allows you to have these functionality, it's not necessary that you go out and start developing a terminology server on your own. It's a huge job to do that for a single organization. So yet again, we do recommend that you either use a commercial terminology server, a server that has the capabilities you need, or you deploy the open source terminology server that is provided by SNOMED International, and it's called Snowstorm. So there are both commercial and open source options available to you if you want to set up a terminology server. And in that regard, we also have a guide, that written document that teaches you about terminology services. We have a course, an e-learning course teaching you about terminology servers and services. It's not only, it's the native Snowstorm or SNOMED services, but also the FHIR terminology services. So if you are working in the direction of FHIR, having this will also teach you a lot about the terminology services, the FHIR terminology services API. And we also do host developer days. So that would probably often be with the National Release Center that would set up a developer day so that we can take you through the process of setting up your own terminology server and applying it. So if it's something you're interested in, like having a workshop where you actually set up these terminology services or servers and learn to use them, I would recommend that you request it to your National Release Center, and then we can arrange a day virtually or face-to-face where we can look into these terminology servers. And then we're also in the process of developing a simple extension management tool. So many of our members, they are part of what we call managed service. So we're SNOMED International, where they charge for helping each member to provide an extension. So the release Ian was showing you before, but there are also commercial products that can help you to create an extension. If you are like a small company or someone who needs some customization and you want to distribute those release files in your extension in the right way, this new simple extension management tool will help you to do that off the shelf. But it's a self-service thing. It's not something that we support. It's something that we provide to you. And that's not up until, I would say, late 2024 before that's available to all. Then we have some with respect to embedding in a clinical system, and this also relates to training and stakeholder engagement. So making people aware of what you can do with SNOMED and how it could look. So I've shown you data analytics tool, I've shown you the UI, user interface, and we have several other bits and pieces of demonstrators available. And if you go to this site, you can see the UI demo is the one I showed you this morning. The map demonstrator is the one I was just pulling up before when we looked at the ICD map. Then we also have an implementation guide on how to implement SNOMED CT within the field of allergy and hypersensitivity. There is a demonstrator for that as well, and it also shows what we talked about with the FHIR models. It also shows that. We have a tool for performing terminology binding, and also we spoke a bit about post-coordination over lunch, and there's also a demonstrator for that. And I'm happy to talk a lot more about all of that. But then again, as Ian said, we would be here until Sunday. So just know that there is this site and you can access these demonstrators. And we are gradually developing more implementation guides with a clinical focus, such as the allergy guide. There will be one for cancer synoptic reporting, and that will also become available soon. Then about training and stakeholder engagement. We have a range of SNOMED CT courses. I'm going to show you the list later. We also, I would say frequently, a couple of times a year, we hold webinars, implementation-oriented webinars. And you can be part of what we call the user support reference group, so you will get emails when there is a new webinar. But Ian also hosts clinical webinars, and there's also a web series for research. So there's plenty of opportunities for you to listen. What is the state of the art? What are other people doing? We have the recordings from the previous expos. Expos is a yearly conference that we hold. We've just been in Atlanta. Last year we were in Portugal. Next year we will be in Seoul. But here at these events, there are presentations from around the world on how they implement SNOMED. And that's really a good opportunity to learn about what others are doing and get inspired. And they are all made available online, so you don't have to attend in person. You can also we often get the question, where is SNOMED used, or who are doing this with SNOMED? And these events and these presentations really is a good way to get an overview of what is happening. We also do this, like having workshops. And as we've also talked about today, this doesn't have to be a single, a one-time event. If there are specific topics or things you need, then we can do these types of workshops. And there are also user groups. Ian mentioned the clinical groups. You can also attend them to learn about a specific field. We gather a lot of the information related to implementations under this website, Implementation Support. Let me go back. Where can I see it? So this side here is the Implementation Support portal. Here you can read more about these various services. You can get advice on the implementation process. You can learn about various tools that are available. Both there are some commercial products, but also the open source tools that we provide. And this is the translation space that Ian was showing you before. So this is a good page to reference if you have, if you are starting to do an implementation. So now it comes to the browser demo, and I will put this down. I hope that you hear me online. No, that's for you. That's for you. I hope that you hear me. Otherwise, make me speak up. To access our browser, just go to browser.snomedtools.org. Otherwise, I'll just show snomed.org/browser. Should work as well. Yeah. And you would accept the agreement here. And you can safely do that. You are in France. It's okay for you. You're not using this for production. You're doing it just to look at SNOMED. So just accept that. Here on the front page, you see the international editions, and we have Spanish there because that's embedded in the international edition. We talked about that before. And then we have numerous national editions available here. Sometimes we may see a French symbol here, so we can access the French one. And down here, you can actually go browsing across all the editions. We also talked about how frequently we have new releases every month, but how much does actually change? That's available under release statistics. And then we have the MRCM browser over here. Let us just go into the international edition. And you can see here that we have loaded the November 2023 version. If I want to jump to an earlier version, feel free, you can jump to any of the previous versions. They are available here. Then, just as I said with data entry, an easy way to get started looking at SNOMED is just to do search. So what do you want to search for? If we want to search for arthritis, I just start typing and we would see some concepts returned, 2025 results by this string. And that's where also constraining your search is a good thing, not only for data entry, but if you are exploring whether SNOMED CT has concepts that match your domain, it's also good to do a constraint. For example, say, well, I'm interested in procedures related to arthritis. I could filter by procedure. What you would see happen here, look at, you get any term that matches on this search string will be displayed. Oh, that's not true because I have this. So now if I untick this one, we have 1804 concepts returned. And they are still procedures because I've still constrained by only procedure concepts there. And you can see they all have the semantic tag procedure here in the fully specified name. But the reason why we get 1804 is because for each concept, they may have multiple terms that matches on that search string, right? So right now, many of these descriptions may belong to the same concept. So if I click group by concept, I only get the preferred or the one concept per one term per concept returned. So that's why it's reduced to 801. So now it's like a distinct search in this data set. Okay, and then you can, one thing to notice is that these 3 lines, and there's some without the 3 lines, it's when we model a concept, when we define all the relationships, at a certain point you reach the limit to these relationships where you can say, now we actually have we have fully defined this concept. Those without the 3 lines are where some part of the meaning is missing, so we can't fully represent all the defining characteristics via relationships. So that's just why there is a difference there. Let us try to search for constrained to disorders instead. You would see now that there's a procedure. It's because it's still there. So now it's only disorders. So when you click on it, we can look a bit on what we have over here. So now the dark blue one here is the concept in focus, arthritis. And you can see the concept identifier, you can see the different terms. When you right-click on any of these yellows, you can easily copy the terms, the concept identifier. You also see the defining properties down here. You see the parents, you see the children. If you go to details, you will get some more information about the terms that are associated with this one, and which are the fully specified name, the synonyms, and the preferred synonyms in a specific language reference set. And here you see in the GP language reference set, these are the preferred terms. On the diagram, we have a standard for how we diagrammatically represent concepts. It's if you do many presentations or talk about the modeling of a concept, it's much easier to have a standard diagrammatic form to discuss whether or not this is correctly modeled. But this is an easy way to display a concept. If you're talking with a clinician about, is this term really reflecting this meaning? It's a lot easier for a clinician also to look at this in a workshop. When I was at the university, we had several workshops I did a project with the nurses where we needed to discuss the nursing procedures, and having these types of visual ways of talking about it was really helpful. And you can download these diagrams if you want to use them in any type of resource. So that was the diagram. Then we have the expression. That is relevant when it comes to talking about terminology services and inferred views. So down here we have a syntax for how you can represent these definitions in a computer processable way, and that's what you get here. Ref sets is where this concept that I have in focus, it's still the arthritis concept. Is that present in any reference sets that are distributed in this edition? And you can see that it is present in a set of simple reference sets, so subsets. We have a subset for the IPS, the International Patient Summary. There is a subset for general practice, family practice. It's present in that one as well. And then we have a global patient set, which is also present in. Then we have some map reference sets. So arthritis is available in the SNOMED to MEDRA simple map, and there you see the target. It's present in the SNOMED to ICD-10 map with this map target. So there's no rules here, but because then there would have been multiple rows for that target. It's also available in the old CTV3 to SNOMED CT simple map. I will just show you, we also had a chat over lunch about inactivations. So now you know that we release SNOMED CT frequently, and sometimes things are inactivated. Concepts may be inactivated. It may be because it's duplicate, redundant, it may be because there is some anomaly, an error. But one thing that is important to know is that when we inactivate something in SNOMED, it's not that we delete it. The code, when a code is assigned to a concept in SNOMED and released, that code will never be related to anything else. Never. So that meaning will always represent that meaning. So let us just try to over here allow searching for active and inactive concepts. You can see here there's arthropathy, arthrosis. That is pink. And if I then go to have that in focus, the pink color is just to say, well, this is inactive. But you can see what we do when we inactivate a concept in SNOMED is to remove it. We take it out of the hierarchy. So we place it out here. It's no longer in the semantic network. It's somewhere out here. But the code is the same, and it still has the descriptions. So you can still search for it. I could still look it up here. And that means that when you record something with a SNOMED code today, and in 10 years from now, you are using SNOMED and it's now inactivated, that doesn't mean you have to change it in your record. Just keep it as it is. You can still go in and query and search for it in that way. So you can be fully comfortable that you can still use it, although it may be inactivated. Because if we go back to the RefSets tab, this one, you will see that it's present in a reference set that we distribute that's called the Concept Inactivation Indicator reference set. So this concept, which one was it? Was it arthropathy? Was inactivated because it was found ambiguous. So there's something in the meaning. The modelers have found that there's something in the meaning of arthropathy that is ambiguous. And what you can see here, we also distribute a historical association reference set. And that's because every time we inactivate a concept in SNOMED CT, we seek to link it to an active replacement. And when something is ambiguous, it may not be a single active replacement. There may be two or more to fully represent that ambiguity. So here you can see that it was made inactive because it was ambiguous, and it has a possibly equivalent to association to arthropathy, an active concept, but also joined something I can't spell or can't pronounce. So there, you will always have a way to go back from something that is active to the inactive, or from something that is inactive to an active replacement. And the expression constraint language that I have shown you actually include a feature to include inactive concepts in a query. So if you're doing analytics over historical data and you're saying, give me anything that is a type of asthma and include all the types of asthma that are now inactive, you will get the historical, the inactive concepts as well. So that is about the reference set. That went a bit out of, I know, but it was important. And then if you're looking at a reference set concept, let us look at the SNOMED to ICD-10, ICD map. It's this one. You will see if I'm looking at a reference set concept, the concept itself, the reference set itself is named by a concept in SNOMED, and then you'll see the members. So often you won't see anything here because often it will be a clinical concept, but if it's a reference set concept, you can see the members here. You can see if we go back to our arthritis concept, you can see the history for that concept here and all the changes that have been made over time. You can, and then you can, if you click here, you'll go to the 2019 version, and if you can go to the different versions of it. You can also do that up here by jumping to another version. Yeah, so I think that is some of the main features. Because we have touched on the expression constraint language, it's not that I'm going to spend a lot of time on this, but just showing you that there is an expression constraint tab over here. And that is where you can say, well, you can drag over a concept if you want, instead of copy and pasting. And I could type in one of the symbols of the expression constraint language. This one is the one for descendants of. So now what I'm saying, give me all the descendants of clinical finding. It will take us some time because, no, that was very fast. I'm surprised. But you can see that we have 120,448 descendants of clinical findings. So this is where what Ian says, you can actually refine it. So now, because I know the syntax, it's easy. Once you have spent a day learning the syntax, it will be easy for you to sit here. And otherwise, there is a help feature that will show you how you can do stuff. And there are examples. So right now, I want to find all the clinical findings that are associated with the lung. Let's say that. So I know that it's the finding site attribute I'm using. So I'll just take finding site. I'll jump to, say, finding site equal to, and then I'll take lung structure. And this is the body structure concept. I'll drag it over. So what I'm saying now, give me all the descendants of clinical finding that has a finding site equal to exactly lung structure. So exactly lung structure. So when I execute this, we will get 839 concepts. Let us just look at one of these. Injury of lung due to dabbing. That sounds not so nice. But here you can see that this concept is defined with a finding site of lung structure. Okay? So we get 839, but there are many types of lung structures. If we looked at the SNOMED, the hierarchy, the body structure hierarchy, and looked under the lung structure, there are many. It can be like a lobe of the lung. There are many very specialized lung structure concepts in SNOMED. So we can also say, give me all the clinical findings with a finding site equal to lung structure or any of its subtypes, because we want to be exhaustive. We want to include everything. So I'll put in the 2 single less than signs here, and then we'll probably see more concepts in the results. So now we get 1,329, because now we get something that has a more specialized lung structure as well. And I don't know which one. Middle lobe of right lung. That sounds like a good one. Let us look at it. So here you have not a finding site equal to lung structure, but a finding site of structure of middle lobe of right lung. So it's defined, and because that's a subtype of lung structure, we get that in the result as well. A last thing to say here is that there is an ECL builder. So if you don't know the symbols, that can help you. So what you can do there, and it will also help you to determine what the attributes. So if we selected something like a procedure up here, you can just say procedure. Now it's not fast anymore.
It always does that on procedures. Do clinical findings.
No, but okay, so procedure. But now finding site is not a good thing. But there's something that connects a procedure to the body side of that procedure. And if you're not really sure or can't remember all those attributes, you can say site. That may help you, and you will see, oh, there is something called procedure site and procedure site direct. So that may help you to find the right attributes. And that leads me to the MRCM browser. You remember how Ian this morning, it's many hours ago now, but this morning he told you that these rules, these associations, finding site, morphology, they are not just taken out of the blue. We have some very fixed relationship types that you can use for certain concepts. And they are available here in the MRCM browser. So here, if I want to say it's a procedure domain, I can click here, and then you see all the various attributes that are used. So things that you can refine your search by, for example. So there can be a method. Like for the appendectomy, there's a method of excision. There are also a method of injection for other procedures. But what you can see here is that a procedure can be defined with a method, and the concepts that can be values, you can't just pick any value, but you can pick those that are subtypes of action, a qualifier value. And those are the concepts you see down here. So this MRCM browser is a way for you to understand the rules of the concept model. Okay, I have 5 minutes now to show you a Snap to SNOMED. So I'll just stop the demo of the browser and I'll jump to Snap to SNOMED. So Snap to SNOMED is, where is it? Here. Is a mapping tool that allows you, here, to go from local code systems, domain-specific code system, maybe a standardized classification system, to SNOMED. You need it every time. You need it very, very often in an implementation. You access Snap to SNOMED via this link here, and there are many reasons. So Ian already talked about these reasons. But the features is really to be able to go from something local to SNOMED in an easy way. So there are, you can create these simple maps. You can use the tool, it's freely available, it's online. You can collaborate in a team, so you can have different members in your local mapping project. And there is support for selection of what concepts to choose. It supports maintenance, so when there is a new version of SNOMED, you can upgrade your map, and then the system will help you to tell, well, these concepts that you used before are now inactive. Do you want to replace with these? So there is a range of very useful features, and there are different workflows. I think an important point with why did we develop this tool is spreadsheets, because very many people trying to implement SNOMED CT tend to start in a spreadsheet. So I'll just find, I think I have it open here. Something like this. We have this local code, then they go to the browser, do a search and say, well, this is the SNOMED code. And it ends up becoming so challenging to maintain, because you'll end up having a lot of code that you copy and paste. Sometimes you make errors. Sometimes you email it to a colleague, and then that colleague makes some changes. And where is the truth then? You see, so working with SNOMED in a spreadsheet approach is really not recommendable. You need to be very thorough. Because what will you do when there is a new version of SNOMED? Your spreadsheet won't tell you which one has changed. You'll have to do that manually. You're going to hate it. I promise you are. And that's why you need some dedicated tooling. But you could have this kind of, these are our local codes with a simple code as you have it here. It could be anything. And then a term. And now we want to go and map that to SNOMED. So we'll go into Snap to SNOMED now and try to map this. You log in. If you don't have an account, then you can click the link down there to obtain one. Okay, so I have several maps that I'm involved with here, but now I want to create a new one. I'll just use a single author. There's also a dual author where you have two mappers, and then the tool will help you to resolve and see if you agree or disagree. So this one is just, so the list we had over there is just a list of common diseases. So we'll just call this common diseases map. This is our first version, demo. So now I want to import the source code system. I want to import that spreadsheet I had there. So this is my common diseases sources. And this is the first time I upload this, and I'll pick it on my machine. It's a TSV, it could also be a CSV, it could even be an Excel format. You can import, it will detect the delimiter. And then if you, for example, if you had more than 2 columns, you had maybe something, additional nodes or something, you can also import them. But then you need to say here, well, the first source code is the code, and the second one is the display. And the second one, display, is quite important if you want the system to help you translate. So now or not translate, map. So now I click save. So now we are here. So now we have our common diseases sources. Then you need to say, what version of SNOMED CT do you want to use? Is it the Danish one? If I were mapping, I might use the Danish one, or if it's the English one, the UK edition, I would use that one. Right now, I'm just using the international, and I'm using the latest one. Then we need to define the scope. So now we are mapping common diseases to SNOMED, but we don't want to be able to select from the whole of SNOMED. So what would we do? Do you have an idea? Yeah, what did you say? Yeah, we'll select this range of concepts with the expression constraint language, just as we have used several times. Here, you can say, I want the clinical finding hierarchy. That's my scope. So that's what I'll do here. That makes sense when it's common disorders. It could also be more specific. So down here, you can actually pop in one of those expression constraints that we have just been introducing in the browser, and you could say that is the scope. Then you couldn't select anything that falls without a scope as your map target. So now we say clinical finding. And then I could assign other members to this project so that they could see it. So it may be that I assigned Ian, and then he could work as a reviewer or doing the map. So you can do that. We have a user guide for this. So you can, and there are videos, so you can get started easily. So now I save it. And there are no codes. That's so weird. That has never happened before. How weird is that? Common diseases, no codes. Let us try again, I think. That is weird. Maybe I didn't click import. Common diseases, code system. Wow. I must have another one somewhere then. Let me do it again. See what has gone wrong. Is it empty, the file? No, it's there. You're crossing your fingers with me? Good. No, that is very strange. I'll just open one of the others, and then I definitely need to look into this. This is a Swedish one. No, that's not good. Let us see. Here is actually the same set of concepts that I'll just do a bulk edit here and clear targets for these and these. it's not doing it. It's because they have been accepted. That's why I can't do it. Okay, so here in this tool, you need to create some tasks. So I'm just a reviewer, so that's probably why I can't. So let me just create an author task for me. I'm an author and I'm assigning everything to me. That's good. So now I can start. And one thing I could do, so when I jump into my author task, and let me say I want to search for Alzheimer's disease. I want to map that. I could do a search here. That's wrong. That was Alzheimer's. Set. I could do a search, and then it will pop up here as you've seen several times today. I can click on this and it will show me the hierarchy. I can see the relationships over here. So if I'm happy with this, I could drag it down. If I can. Difficult. I can drag it down to the right row. And then it's put into draft. But what you would probably do is to go into the details view, because that is a bit more user-friendly. And now there is one for unintentional injuries. Let's leave that. Chronic lower respiratory disease. You can see down here that by going into the details tab, it suggests some concepts. You don't have to do a search. It will have done the search for you. And if you're happy with one of them, you can drag it into either of the relationship properties. So that relates to what Ian was telling about. Is it narrow to broad, broad to narrow, or is it an exact equivalent one? And then you can put it into map and go to next, and then it will take you through all of them. And this will be reflected here on the list. But then you can also do a auto map. So let us try to do that. And this is where the system does it for you. And have you started with the proposal? So what you have now is a set of mapped concepts where the system wasn't able to find something like unintentional injuries. You can see that no targets have been detected. So there you would need to go in and assess, is it because we need to do a search for something more specific, differently? Is it because that there's something odd? Unintentional injuries is probably a code that we would never add in SNOMED. So is it something that we should exclude from our set? So this will also give an option for you to quality ensure your sets. But it could also be, there is another example, it's not here, but in the set that didn't import, there is one for, it's some abbreviation. And then it can't find, the tool can't find because it doesn't know that abbreviation. But then you can refine your search and maybe find the concept that is more appropriate, and then you can select that. So this tool is a way for you to get started, and then once you have mapped it and put everything over to mapped, the reviewer of your project will be able to go in and review. It can accept, reject. You can add notes, so you can also communicate to each other in the tool. And then once you are happy with it, you can export it into a map, and then you'll get a map spreadsheet out. So that means that you can work with the tool to do all of the things that you normally would do in a spreadsheet that would end up becoming messy. You can export it, and then you can modify that export format to a format that can be imported into your system. So you don't have to have a full-blown extension to get it implemented. You can also have these types of maps that you then manipulate locally so that it fits in your system. So there is an export feature. Where is it? I think it's here. So you can see there, you can export. And once you have that full map file, you can even also import that again if you want to create a new version or, do all sorts of things. So I think this is a good, very pragmatic way of starting. If you're thinking of some code you are working with, you can pull it into the system and see if there are matching SNOMED concepts. The limitations in France is the same limitation as in Denmark when doing this, because if my local terms are Danish, I would like the system to help me find the corresponding English or the concepts in the international edition maybe, or in the Danish. But in Denmark, we have only one term for each concept. we have the whole of SNOMED translated, but there's only one term, and that means that if those terms doesn't match the local, then I won't get a very good mapping proposal. So I think a pragmatic way for you to get started is probably to have translate your local terms into English and then use the international edition. That would be a way to start, to get started without being dependent on having a French translation and a French edition available now. Because over time, when there is a French edition with a translation, you can you will use that, and then you can load in your French terms, and then it will propose the right concepts. But without the translation, it's not easy. So therefore, I suggest that you do the other way.
And the translation only adds a description to the existing concept.
Yeah.
So there is no modification of the mapping once the French release.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, so that was this. So you've seen the browser, you've seen Snap to SNOMED, you've heard about our services. I would suggest, if you know that you're going to work more with SNOMED, to go in and review our courses. Course catalog, we have the foundation course, which is a very good place to start, and I can promise you that you will recognize some of the content when you go in there. So you will feel completely on track with everything, because you have seen some of the slides before, you know the points. So you will get, this course will be easy for you to get started with now, because you know a lot of the things, and there are some assessments. But that is the foundation for maybe going to some of the more advanced courses, such as the implementation course. We also have authoring courses for those who are authoring concepts in an extension. Yeah. So there's a range of learning opportunities there. We also have a document library with overviews, guides, specifications. And if there's some documentation you can't find, I really don't think it's because we don't have it. It may be because it's difficult to find, but then reach out to us and we'll point you to it. Okay? Yeah.
And if you feel that it's more easy to read English rather than to listen to it, on each course we have this transcript with the slide and the transcription of what the presenter is saying. So,
yeah. The new foundation course uses YouTube videos, so you can so there is a script, and you can just Google Translate that, because the script is something we have written, so it's likely not to modify the terms that you don't want it to modify. But there's also the ability in YouTube just to switch to French subtitles. So I also told you that this tools and services, the software tools are provided as open source on GitHub. So it's available there. You can hopefully you can find what you're looking for. Otherwise, we are there to point you to it.